Kakhaber Kemoklidze. He is the former head of Georgia's National Security Council office and an intelligence analyst. Currently, he is a lecturer at Caucasus University, and he joins us now live from Tbilisi. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program today. Now, looking at the recent advancements Russia is making on the map, we're seeing an imminent entry into Kiev by that Russian military convoy, and Kherson now under the control of Russians. There are reports that that convoy hasn't been able to enter the capital because of Ukrainian resistance. What do you think will happen next?
Well, thank you for having me again. Well, I do think that the Russians actually are changing the tactics. In the beginning, they have been betting on swift military operation, encircling the big cities, getting the highways, but they did not expect such big resistance from the Ukrainian forces. Right now, they are turning to the point to use the heavy, let's say, artillery shellings toward the big cities, install the big scare among civilian population and within the military at the same time, and at some point push the Ukrainian army back in the western part of the Ukraine. I do think that the convoy actually could not manage to move forward has several major reasons. First and foremost was that they also did not expect such serious resistance from the Ukrainian forces. They seems to have the mechanical breakdown within the convoy itself. And of course, there was a big problem with conjunction, kind of piling of the military machinery on one particular spot. But generally seems to be the primary target is Kiev. And right now, as we see, the second target is going to be like getting under control the seaside towards Mariupol direction and Odessa direction at the same time.
You mentioned the resilience of the Ukrainian people. That has somewhat shed light on some of the weaknesses the Russian army has. What did Putin miscalculate? Because according to reports, Russia wanted to take hold of the capital shortly after it started attacking.
But I think President Putin miscalculated actually the natural, let's say, perception of the ordinary Ukrainians towards Russia. Much has been changed since 2014 when the Crimean Peninsula has been seized. And of course, they also got like 8 years protracted conflict in the eastern flank, which was still ongoing. And Ukrainians actually understood through their own DNAs that the primary enemy is Russia, and that the Moscow decided to install the proxy government within the center of Kiev did not work out because they have been perceived as the enemy number one for the Ukrainians. And Ukrainian nation is already there. Mr. Putin was thinking in a different way. He has been thinking that the Belarusians and Ukrainians and Russians are like one rooted Slavic nation. And I think that was the biggest miscalculation in my understanding.
Do you think the West has done enough in providing assistance to Ukraine? What more can the West do really to stop Russia?
Well, to be honest, like the Western support is definitely clearly seen on the ground through the active and very severe sanctions. And of course, like the provision of the military machinery and military equipment toward the Ukrainian army, which is the key factor of their very strong resistance for today. However, even the very strong resistance has its own limits. With the changed tactics, what we are seeing right now from Moscow, with heavy artillery shelling and very severe, let's say, military operations from the south and towards Ukraine, with the bombings of the settled areas and etc., I think it is still very hard for resistance being kept in an effective manner still, because it has its own limits.
All right, Kakhaber Kemoklidze, thank you so much for joining us here on TRT World and sharing that analysis with us.